And welcome to a very special edition of Nostalgia Alley. We're going to go back into time. It's real nostalgia tonight. Let me tell you, we have a terrific guest. We have Lorraine Ladonne-Storch, the beautiful Lorraine Ladonne-Storch, who's on our show. And we're going to talk about the history of Maplewood. And Lorraine, you have an extremely interesting service going on for all the residents of Maplewood, South Orange. Pretty exciting. Tell us about it.
Yes, it is exciting. We discovered a couple of months ago, that in our archives we have probably most of the homes in Maplewood and South Orange. We have pictures and listings. And some of these date back to the 30s. So what we decided to do in honor of Valentine's Day is kind of like our love letter to Maplewood and South Orange. We are inviting the community to give us a call and let us know if they'd like us to research their house. And if we have the picture, we will scan it and email them the picture of their house and the listing. And it's quite interesting to see because, as I said, some of these pictures date quite far back.
And this is a free service to everybody?
Absolutely free.
Can't beat the price, can you?
No, can't beat that.
Well, let's go back and find out what a home cost back in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Certainly.
And what the taxes were. And what do you have?
We have a few examples here. Pardon me, I have to put on my glasses.
Oh, very distinguished.
So one of the earliest examples we have is a house on Orchard Road. I don't have a picture of this one, but the listing dates to 1945.
1945.
And the house was originally listed at $10,000.
Wow.
And it sold for $9,500. Do you want to guess what the taxes were, Mike?
$1.50. No, I would say probably about $300.
The taxes were $173.46.
Wow. Where did we go wrong?
I don't
Look at
know.
Taxes now.
I don't know. We have strayed very far. So we have some, as I said, from the 30s on through present day. And it's really interesting to see what the homes look like. Some of these pictures actually have cars in the shot.
Oh, I love it.
So you can really, really see.
I wish I had that car today.
Isn't that something?
Well, gas back then was about 11 cents a gallon, so I guess you could get away with a big car.
How about that? 2 cars.
And that's a beautiful house. What year and what price?
This one is on Garfield Place, and the price was $20,000, and this is 1958.
Wow.
Taxes were $361.92.
Well, I could see it going up and up and up.
Yes, we're heading in the wrong direction.
And you have a historic house there, right? That goes back? Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't know if, I'm sure many of your viewers will recognize this one.
Sure do.
This is Durand Hedden, and actually there are several buildings on the property. And
one is a gift store or gift shop, I think.
Yeah, now it is, yes. So at that time, I believe this one is fairly recent. It's 1971.
Okay.
And the cost of the property was $120,000.
And that's something.
Isn't that amazing?
And that lay vacant for a long time, didn't it?
It
And then
did.
It made into a museum for the people
Then the town
of
bought
Maplewood.
it. Yes, the town bought it, and now it's a museum. You can go and enjoy all kinds of events there. It's wonderful. And it's in Grassmere Park. That's what the property is called. And there's a stream running through it, and it's quite nice. Yeah.
So it's a museum. I have so much stuff in the house. My wife sometimes calls my house a museum, so I can identify with that. And what else do you have here?
So these are just further examples.
Little examples, okay.
Let's see. This one is on Scotland Road.
Oh,
in
Scotland
South
Road,
Orange.
sure.
Yes, let's see if
Beautiful
we can
house.
get a shot of that.
Looks like the Father Knows Best house of
It
that
does.
TV series of the
It
1950s.
does. Wait a minute, you're dating
Does that
me.
come
That's
with
not
Robert
good.
Young and Jane Wyatt?
No.
No.
This dates to 1962.
62.
And the cost of the home, it was originally listed at $37,500. Then it went down, and it finally sold at $32,900.
Terrific.
And taxes then were $1,072.
Oh, I can see it going up.
It's going up. It's going up. So, but what's interesting about the listings is, I mean, the owners are listed on here, all the features of the house are listed. So for a homeowner to look back and see what was there and maybe no longer is, you know, or just to see the origins of the house. I know for my house, there is an addition on my house, and I thought it dated, I thought it was quite recent. And it turns out, the picture of my house that I found was in 1956, and the addition was already there.
Wow.
But it was smaller. And it's interesting to see the adaptations people have made over the years.
So in today's real estate, if I had $50,000, I could get a nice closet somewhere?
Perhaps. Maybe you could get a parking space somewhere.
Now, a lot of people here in Maplewood, they're asking, how did Maplewood get its name? How did that happen?
I've heard a couple of different stories, but...
we love stories here.
Yes, but unfortunately there isn't anything terribly interesting about the way Maplewood got its name. It's what you might guess. The town is full of maple trees, and that's how it happened. Now originally, what we know as Maplewood was part of South Orange Township, but I think in 1904 there was a little tax dispute that they couldn't resolve, and so South Orange separated itself from what we know as present-day Maplewood.
You know, they say that the story is that maple tree, and they, right by the train station, they went by and saw, and they said, that's going to be Maplewood. I have been looking for that tree for 13 years. I have never found the tree.
Well, I like your version of that. I do. But it's interesting because the separation of the two towns happened in 1904, but the actual name, Maplewood Township, or the Township of Maplewood, didn't come into place till the 20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the homes, or probably most of the homes, were built in the 20s and 30s, and that was the height of the Depression. Why was there so much activity then in those really hard years financially?
That's a good question. Most of the people who settled in Maplewood, who eventually came to Maplewood, were not, there were many people of means, and they could continue to build. So the Depression, you know, it didn't affect this area, Maplewood in particular, as hard as one might think. So the boom, the building boom continued through the 20s and 30s. And in fact, in the 15 years after 1925, Maplewood saw almost a 300% increase in population.
Really? Wow. The heart of... And there were a lot of famous people living in Maplewood, South Orange. Who are some of the people we'd recognize?
There were. There are still today, but one of the most famous is probably the Roosevelt family.
Oh.
Yes. There's Roosevelt Park up on Ridgewood. That was, I believe, Cornelius Roosevelt, who was Teddy Roosevelt's uncle.
Oh.
So we had a lot of Roosevelts running around. There's, of course, Durand. Hedden is named after Asher B. Durand, who was a famous painter, so from the Hudson River School.
And we have the Pearson family, Pearson's Mill, one of the very early people. Was that really a mill a long time ago?
It was really a mill. It was a grist mill. And Mr. Pearson did quite well for himself.
Did he?
And he was able to build Vauxhall, which is the name of that Greek Revival structure, the big white house that is still standing. So anyone driving along Valley Street will be able to see that.
Now, an interesting thing, when we were talking a couple of days ago, Frederick Olmsted, who, of course, was responsible for Central Park and many, many wonderful parks, really had an influence here in Maplewood.
He did. He did. The Olmsted brothers designed, did the plans for Memorial Park, which is a magnificent park if you think about it, if you think about the natural, the placing of the natural elements in relation to the bridges, in relation to the structures that are in the park. It's very, very user-friendly and very comfortable place to be in. They also did the plans for the Ward Homestead, which has now become Winchester Gardens.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
So
very notable.
Now, people are asking what the oldest house in Maplewood and South Orange would be. What are some of the really old houses?
There are quite a few, actually. I think the oldest house in Maplewood is the old stone house over on Jefferson by the railroad. But there's also the Aaron Ball house that dates quite far back.
Approximately how old would that be?
That one I don't know.
Okay.
That one I know. But there are houses...
Around my birth date?
Maybe not quite that old. There are houses on Elmwood Avenue, Boyden Avenue, Tuscan Road, Ridgewood Road, that date back to the earliest times of settlement in Maplewood.
Now, you're in real estate, and you're with Coldwell Banker here in Maplewood.
Yes.
A little bit of a plug for you here.
Thank you.
People are wondering, how is the real estate market right now? Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy?
Yes.
Yes is
To
the
both.
answer.
Yes. It's the real estate market right now is actually on fire.
On fire?
It is on
No wonder it's
fire.
so hot in the studio. My God, it's on fire.
It's very, very, very active right now for a couple of reasons. Interest rates are at historic lows. The average historic interest rate is 6%, and we're at 3.6.
Really? That's terrific.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So interest rates are very low. Inventory is low, so that makes it good for sellers.
But not too much for you.
No, it works out just fine for me.
Okay, good.
It works
good,
out just fine.
good.
And consumer confidence is high. People are not quite so worried about losing their jobs. They're not quite so worried about making the bills anymore. So they're back out there in the market.
You know what I find really interesting about real estate? You have to find a house that matches the personality of the person you're selling it to. How do you figure that out? I mean, the right house for the right person.
It's it's part of what goes into being a good agent. It requires a lot of listening, because very often, if you think back to when you bought your house, you probably had several different ideas, maybe even some conflicting ideas about what you wanted in a house. So an agent has to really listen to what their client is saying, and has to be able to read cues, because sometimes you get silent signals.
Little body language there.
Body language, how comfortable did they look in this particular home? What were the signs in this other home? So that's why you want to take them through a few. Sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes somebody can walk into a house and say, this is it.
Like love at first sight.
That's wonderful.
Like me and my wife, it was love at first sight.
That's wonderful when it happens. But other times, it's a process, and you just have to be willing to, you're helping people. And as long as you keep that in mind, that is in the forefront of your mind, that your main job is to help people.
Isn't that a wonderful job to have? You're helping people.
Fantastic.
You're changing people's lives. You're introducing them to a new way of living. What could be more satisfying than that?
It's absolutely wonderful. It's particularly wonderful when it's someone who is not a native Maplewoodian, someone who has discovered the community. It's a great feeling.
Before we go on break, have you gotten any unusual requests from people, weird requests?
Personally, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. There are some reality checks that come into play once you start looking for a house. I'd have to say that I have dealt with clients who were maybe a little unrealistic in their expectations, but once you start looking and people narrow down exactly what it is that they want, what it is that they like,
Right.
then everything falls into place. One thing that happens a lot is you'll get someone who says, absolutely not a ranch house, absolutely not.
I know, it has a bad name
And then
for some reason.
fast forward to the end,
Right.
and, you might say, well, there's this one that you just might want to take a look at, and that happens to be the one that they
And what if they want a
find.
ranch house with cattle? That's even harder.
That would be tough.
Anyway, we're going to go for the second half. A special guest on Nostalgia Alley on the second half. And I'm going to give you a clue. The clue is what happened to David. So stand by. We're going to solve that mystery. Lorraine, would you be my co-host for the second segment?
I would love to.
Terrific. So don't go away. Don't touch that dial.
After 17 years working as a mason, Mike was laid off. I met him when he came into the library looking for help. He found a job opening, but the application was only online. Mike said he'd spent his entire life around tools, but had never used a computer. I showed him how, and he ended up applying for numerous jobs online. I saw Mike the other day. His new computer skills paid off. He's working again.
New Jersey libraries are transforming lives. Tell us your story.
Welcome back to Nostalgia Alley. Second half, a real treat. I'm here with my co-host, the lovely Lorraine. And I bet a lot of people around Maplewood are saying, what happened to David's antique store? Where is it? It's a karate studio? David, what happened? Where are you? How can we find you?
Well, we had to make a move to Hoboken. and sort of had a raised rent that I just couldn't handle anymore. So I did have to make that move, and I'm on Washington Street in Hoboken.
What's the number on Washington?
120 Washington.
120 Washington.
Yep, and it's
Okay.
a gorgeous store that I'm sharing with a person I've known for a few years, Karen Nason, and she is a florist, and she had been putting little things into her store that looked kind of nice, but she said when she saw my store here in Maplewood, she said, "You got to move that into my store." So when when this situation occurred, I figured I'll just go and take advantage of that. So now we are mixing the antiques with the
nice.
flowers, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Bigger and better.
Bigger and better. It has a second level, so there's 2 levels. You can enjoy her floral arrangements on one floor and then my stuff down in the basement. But this is not a basement. This is like a cavern, and it's beautiful. It's just magnificent. So people are really enjoying it. The regulars over there in Hoboken never knew there was a lower level, and they're all going in there. They come up like, "Oh my God, this is fabulous."
That's great. We have great stuff, David.
Yeah, so I took it there. I don't like leaving Maplewood. This is my town. I've been here for, I don't know, 35 years, and my family goes back to the 30s.
Wow. Well, we're going to talk about your family. You have some wonderful posters from the strollers.
The strollers.
Show us some of these. This is a real bit of Maplewood history
Yeah,
here.
and in keeping with what Lorraine had
Pretty
started
incredible.
with the history of Maplewood, this just came into my possession the last couple of weeks. These are old stroller
Move it a little towards you. Yeah. a little bit.
posters.
There we go. Beautiful.
And
The
I
swan.
like them because they look like they're silk screened. I believe they are, so they're not mass printed. And
What year are these?
these are the 70s and the 60s.
Well, look a lot older.
They look
Critics'
earlier,
choice.
which when I first saw them, I thought, wow, this is 30s, 40s. But then I
Wow.
saw the dates, but I love the way they're done.
And look at the print is perfect.
Yeah.
They really printed them back then to be to
Beautiful.
last a long, long time.
This is one of my favorites.
Oh, Harvey. Hold that up. Harvey the Rabbit
Yep.
by Mary Chase.
And this beautiful, nice
And further of all, I
colors.
love the hold Harvey up again. 8:30 p.m. admission, $2. Now, where can you get something like that for $2?
And this one, just again, nice colors.
Boy, that's nice.
This one.
And you're a graphic artist, so you were
Yeah, I
appreciate the
As soon
different
as I saw these, I said,
techniques
wow.
of wow.
So my friend, I want to give my friend a little
Yes,
shout out. His name is Brandon Rawls. He owns the store called My Favorite Things in Orange.
Oh,
And Brandon and I occasionally pick things up there. He's got a great eye. He's a younger guy. I think he's really going to do well in the antique business, and he turns up fabulous stuff.
boy, terrific.
So just go
What a
through these
collection.
quickly.
Look at
Yep.
that.
So
Hold them up for a little longer so that
Yep.
people can really see. Look at that, the lion in love. And look, we have one more here.
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
So those are really cool, I think.
And you have some cool shots of old Maplewood that
Yes.
kind of
Again, to follow up
goes
on
together with Lorraine.
Lorraine's start, when I was in the store on Baker Street, I had printed up copies of postcards of early Maplewood scenes. And we made these into frameable prints. We still have them available. If anybody wants them, I can give you
Oh, good.
the how to reach me. So I haven't abandoned Maplewood. I'm still interested in Maplewood. I love the imagery. This is 1920s Maplewood Village.
Oh, I recognize that.
Yep. And here's another view of the same thing.
Look at that. It's basically the same as it was in
Yeah.
the 20s. Not many changes
You
in
can
Maplewood.
recognize the buildings.
I do.
You
The
know,
fact-
where the Bagel Chateau
Yeah.
is, and
There's me walking to the Bagel Chateau. It's amazing.
But that's an interesting point that you raised, Mike, that there hasn't been that much change, and a lot of it has to do with planning and forethought, trying to keep a cohesiveness to the village and to the
Right.
community.
Exactly.
this one's gone, which I'm sad.
Oh.
I love this old building here.
Wow. When did that go?
Oh, I don't know. Do you have any idea when that got changed to a one-story?
No.
Then we have a train station,
Here's
which has not changed
The train station.
in the slightest. That is
You know, when
terrific. I love the train
changes.
station.
I think this is your car here, Mike. The
There
one
we are. There's my car.
with the horses and And then this is Baker Street,
Oh, Baker Street.
and this is really early. This was
That's an
the
early one.
post office, and my shop would have been somewhere down here, I think. But those houses are gone.
That's goes way back.
Yep.
Baker Street.
And then I've got the Women's Club. I just picked this card
the
up
Women's
recently.
Club,
This is
yeah.
1940s view of the Women's Club, and I love the way that looks.
That's terrific.
Old car here.
You know what I also want to get into, because I don't want to run out of time.
Yeah.
You have a history with your family in old-time radio, which is really interesting.
Yes, yes. Again, this just happened this week. I've been searching through my own little collection to find certain things, and I came across my grandfather's photo album. Of course, I knew this, but it was just nice to find it again. And he was a pioneer in radio broadcasting. In fact, one of the things he
And his
did,
name was?
Albert E. Son.
Okay.
And he, among many things he did, one of the things he did was to put the first radio transmission in a car so that they could actually broadcast news
Look at that.
from this car.
And what
So
year
they-
are we talking about?
1922.
1922. They did
Yes.
mobile. Oh,
Yeah,
my.
well, he was the first to do it. And this is a picture of the car
Look at that.
where they put a radio and they're sitting on a Chippendale table that's inside the car. So they really threw it together, but from that they could broadcast, and it says in this picture, wireless telephoto first used for reporting, and it reported about this parade.
Wow. That's really early.
And there is the genius at his little...
Oh, look at I love the equipment on that. That's like out of Flash Gordon. Love the earphones.
And I call him a genius because he didn't just do this. He was a photographer, he was a filmmaker. I mean, not major motion pictures, but he did a lot of beautiful photography around the country. And sometime I'm going to show you that. We have footage of the World's
I'd
Fair.
love to run that on the show.
Yeah, 1939, and
World's Fair.
it's just beautiful. He was an expert at
Do you know how he
framing.
got into radio, or was it through the back door?
that. I don't know. Now that I've found this again, I just found this week. I have one surviving relative, Oscar Doyle. He's 85, and I'm going to have to get on the phone with him and check out some of this stuff, because Oscar is the last one that can really put all
last
this
one.
together.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
But he was something.
That's a real pioneer back
Oh,
then.
yeah, yeah.
WKDKA in Pittsburgh was the #1 radio station, and I remember my father telling me, he was a doctor at Lenox Hill Hospital, if you could get KDKA Pittsburgh, you had a good set. And he had the old Atwater Kent, and he'd throw the aerial out the window and pray
Right.
for reception. But that was the pioneering days.
He was at WJZ, and
Sure, I know that.
it was, I think, in Newark.
Newark, yes.
Yep. And I used to go up in the attic because he moved to my parents' house, and he had all this stuff up in the attic. So it was going into a step back in time to see Grandpa in his attic working with all his radio equipment,
incredible.
talking to the whole world.
Now you're a very people don't realize that you're an extremely talented artist. I've seen your work, and it's just unbelievable.
you.
Now you come from a background of artists.
Yes, this Albert Son's father and aunts and uncles were all painters, and they are in the collections at the Newark Museum. There's Edwin Son, there's, I'm going to forget it now, Ruth, I think, a few others that are all in the collection at the Newark Museum. And they did local scenes. They did scenes of Branch Brook Park and just gorgeous stuff. So this, through them to him to me, yeah, this is where I got my talent.
Did you become an artist as a result of seeing all of the artwork that he produced?
Yes, I was telling Lorraine that my grandfather had a painting of an Apache Indian. One of the Sons painted Indians, and he had a painting of an Apache chief in his main room. And I would come up as a little kid and open the door, and I wouldn't go in that room because that Apache was so scary.
Oh, wow, that's realistic
That
art.
if I came in, I went like this and hid from the Apache. Unfortunately, that painting got destroyed in a fire.
Oh, gee.
He lost a lot of his stuff in a terrible fire.
Wow.
But his third floor in East Orange, where I grew up with my grandfather, was a wonderland.
It must have been.
He collected rocks, so you'd go upstairs and he would turn all the lights out and they were all glowing. So all the cabinets were filled with glowing rocks.
How nice.
And so he was some character.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, you certainly inherited this great talent as an artist.
Well, thank you.
What is this? I see something
This is
here.
one of his photographs.
Oh, wow.
And I love the composition.
Look
This
at
is a
that.
New England wharf scene. And I don't even remember seeing this. I just discovered it this week, rediscovered it. So, composition, he was always telling
It is.
me.
Composition is everything.
Yeah. The way he framed things, he taught me that. He said, when you're looking at a scene, try to back off and get a tree or a branch or something to help you frame the shot.
We have just about 2 minutes, but we have one more photograph, and then
Well, let me see if I can get, this is my mother and
Oh.
my mother and my Aunt Jean. Grandpa took this picture
That's
of them at the
terrific.
Bronx Zoo getting feed for the animals.
wow.
Fabulous. What a great
That's a great shot.
memento to have.
Yeah. And there's great 16mm movies that I'm
Wow.
gonna
You know, we're
show
going to do a show on the World's Fair. Let's do that.
Terrific.
Before we go off the air, Lorraine, how do people contact you if they're interested in your service?
I can be reached by email at lorraine.laban-storch@cbmoves.com.
That's the longest email I've
Yes.
heard in history.
Or stop by the office in the middle of town, right next to the movie theater, and you'll find me.
And how do we get in touch with you? Tell us about the new shop again, the
Okay,
address.
it's Hoboken Hot House, and I'm not familiar exactly with that website. My partner designed it,
Okay.
but I think it's www.hobokenhothouse.com. You'll find it. I don't know that much about the technology.
Neither do I.
You'll find her. It's a beautiful website, talks about the store and my contribution. And then I'm available at davidheffernan9@yahoo.com.
Okay, good.
And love to hear from anybody. Anybody has any old photos they'd like to show me, I'd love to see them.
Fantastic. Well, David, Lorraine, I thank you so much. Lovely, beautiful co-host here. How can I do
Thank you.
better?
It was a pleasure.
David, not so beautiful, but
No, I
great.
know.
You know, what can I say? So this is Mike Sobel saying thanks for stopping by, and good night to you, and a special tune.